r/AskReddit. What is the stupidest thing that someone has been fired for in your workplace? I worked at a video game company. We had about 60 people and one odd guy. He was great but often slammed whenever we'd spin up on new projects, which was frequently. The programmers would sometimes help out if needed, but that's a lot of money to burn on it. So he hired a younger guy to help him out during the rushes. This was a learning opportunity that paid decently, plus we all knew it had downtime so no one cared if he played some World of Warcraft during lulls. So yeah, this new guy was literally getting paid to play WoW and no one blinked. I guess it wasn't exciting enough. The dude got caught in the basement huffing compressed air. He was out of the office before the high wore off. The company I work for had 2 offices in different towns. The guy who was employed to run the other office was completely useless and lazy. He barely knew how to switch on a computer, let alone do anything useful on it. There were other issues, such as him leaving to go shopping in the middle of the day and leaving the office unattended. But the straw that broke the camel's back was the invoices. Pretty much his only job was to create invoices. The program we use to create them literally walks you through it. Box for customer name. Next. Box for customer phone number. Next. Box for postcode. Next. It even automatically finds the address, so all you have to do is select the correct door number from a drop down menu. He was given numerous training days on it. He was talked through it on the phone. He just could not manage to fill in a few boxes. In the 4 months I worked with him he didn't once complete one. Guy in a GPS company vehicle was filling jerry cans of gas from company gas pump, monitored by CTV, and then driving down to the docks to fill his boat. Got fired for it same year as his daughter was doing co-op. She quit out of shame. He lost his job, his house, his wife, and his relationship with his daughter. Last I heard he was living with his mother. To be fair, he had multiple in-office affairs, wore Disney brand clothes, and insisted on wearing open-toed shoes in the office. My coworker has a deadly milk allergy. One time he broke out in hives, but was continuing to work. My boss walked by and started talking to him, then said, "I'm gonna take you to the ER real quick." He would have died if he didn't go anyway. He got fired for leaving work early and missing a couple days, but he filed a grievance since it's a union job and got rehired, but at the same place. We have a guy who's constantly drunk, passed out on the job once, and one time he got mad and sent a threatening text to a coworker. What the coworker did was not clean up his mess. So I get it, but a text is evidence. He just got suspended for a while and was back on the job in no time. This same drunk coworker also likes to F on the intercom. One time he said, "Attention customers, there's a pedo in our Lex." He was trying to poke fun at his buddy, but turns out his buddy wasn't there, but a customer was. This customer complained to the store manager, but my coworker still didn't get fired. This makes it all the more stupid that the allergy coworker got fired, but Drinky still hasn't. About 13 years ago, the manager in a retail store I worked at was faking returns using merchandise that wasn't properly inventoried in our database. Neckties. It was a men's clothing store, and instead of taking cash he was doing the returns onto his debit card. He did this for a month or so. The district manager came into the store one day, scooped up all of the receipts, looked over some information he got from HR, and had everything he needed to fire the guy within the hour. Now fired manager then paid everything he stole back in exchange for the company not charging him with fraud. Then came back to the store a few times to say it was all bullshit and he didn't do anything. I knew from the second I met him I didn't trust him. Me and my former coworker worked at a semi-large law firm doing basically paralegal work in a very specific field. This firm was bankrupt and was going to close shortly after we were both hired there, so I jumped ship to another, much smaller firm that specialized in the exact same field. I referred my friend for a job at the second firm because he was super qualified, hardworking, and a genuinely nice guy. I knew his gig at the first firm was coming to an end because that office was closing, so I thought it was a good fit. My boss at the second firm was a bit of control freak, especially about time, and fired my friend days after hiring him for being approximately 5 minutes late on his second day. He was late because there was a car fire on the bridge he was driving on, Only 2 bridges he could use anyhow, and my boss didn't even see him that day, just told one of the managers to escort my friend back to his car. I had to get his personal belongings from his desk and give them back to him later. Utter BSBTW, that office was super understaffed and undertrained. We really needed a trained person at the time, and I ended up quitting because the work-life balance was horrible. I worked at Disney World as an intern, who are all pretty much slave labor. The stupidest one was our neighbor was fired for giving water to stray cats in the Disney housing. I know they also highly discourage calling 911, but rather call the front gates and they will come check out the emergency, then they would call 911 if they felt it was needed. Supposedly people got fired for not telling them they called 911. But I can't completely confirm they actually got fired. Although it wouldn't surprise me, the lengths Disney goes to protect their image is insane. It was a dream job, so they could do anything and us sleep-deprived kids would listen. It's only when I look back I realize the sketchy things they did. One of our dishwashers had just turned 18 and was constantly bragging about going out to the clubs in the city. It became an obsession of his and he would often beg to be let off a little early whenever he was on a closing shift. Then one day he called out because his grandmother supposedly died. Except he was Snapchatting himself at the club and sending it to half the people we work with. He was fired the next day. Except he kept trying to come back in. When he finally took the hint, he still came back to beg for his job several times over the next few months. There was an argument over which of 2 rival college football teams was better. It escalated into a shouting match where one individual started on all the homophobic slurs he knew against the other individual. He was promptly asked to leave, and never came back. And this was a white-collar office where everyone had MBAs and usually acted professionally. The other guy left on his own accord just a couple weeks later. Stupid on the company part emo, but here goes. Lady in her 60s working in a large convenience store chain with me at the checkout counter. Every break she would take a chocolate bar of choice, a crunchy, eat it on her break, come down a minute or so early from break and put it through the till. No big deal. One day she does this and the new hotshot loss prevention manager for the company happens to be in the store at the time of this lady's break. Basically throws the rule book at her, explains how it is not allowed and is immediately suspended without pay, pending an inquiry. Fast forward a couple of weeks, the lady in her 60s is fired over taking a 50p, 60 cents, chocolate bar she always paid for as the company needs to set an example. 25 years of clean service a year before retirement. Safe to say a lot of employees left soon after this and the store is now closed. TLDR version. Old lady fired for not paying for a chocolate bar in advance despite always paying for previous 20 years. Don't hate too much on this guy cause he was a good guy but he couldn't control his classrooms. I work as a lunch supervisor for middle school kids. It's a pretty chill gig. Kids sometimes talk back or don't follow the rules and we have procedures to follow when they do. Send them to the office or write them up. It's pretty easy, but I'm young so I can relate to them. And while I'm far from cool to adults I do okay in their eyes. But this guy could not get a handle on his classes. It's only half an hour for the older kids, and they would be screaming and running around, even spilling out into the hallway. He refused to follow procedures and was just terrible at the job. Sure, it might not be for everyone, but he was a parent. He should know how to be at least a little strict. Needless to say, we went for spring break and he didn't come back on the following Monday.